America is the richest and most powerful country in human history, but almost nobody expected it to happen. For over 500 years after the Vikings first landed, most of North America was completely ignored. Look at this map from 1491, right before Columbus sailed. The Vikings had whispered about a mysterious land they called Vinland around the year 1000, but Europe basically shrugged and forgot about it. Columbus wasn't even trying to discover a new continent. He was looking for a shortcut to India's spices. Instead, he bumped into the Caribbean in 1492 and thought he had reached Asia. He called the native people Indians, a name that stuck for centuries, even though he was nowhere near India. He brought back gold, not spices. Spain's king and queen were suddenly very interested. "Go back," they said, "convert them and bring us more gold." Meanwhile, Portugal had just figured out how to sail around Africa to reach real Asia. So in 1494, Spain and Portugal drew a literal line down the globe, the Treaty of Tordesillas. Everything west of the line was Spain's, everything east was Portugal's. Spain hit the jackpot. The Aztec and Inca empires were loaded with gold and silver. North America, mostly empty forests and useless land. So Spain basically ignored everything north of Florida, except for one quick 1539 expedition that found nothing shiny and left disappointed. England actually sent explorers to North America as early as 1497, 5 years after Columbus, but waited almost 90 years before trying to settle. Their first colony, Roanoke, in 1585, completely vanished. To this day, the only clue was the word Croatoan carved on a tree, mystery unsolved. Then came Jamestown in 1607, the first permanent English settlement, and in 1620, the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth on the Mayflower. These guys were so strict, they banned Christmas celebrations and dancing. Yet within decades, the entire East Coast was covered in 13 thriving British colonies. By 1754, France controlled the huge middle of the continent, New France, but they only had about 60,000 settlers. Britain had over 1 million. The two superpowers went to war, with Native American tribes fighting on both sides. We call it the French and Indian War, but it was actually the North American version of the global 7 Years' War. Britain won. France lost Canada and had to hand over Louisiana. Now, Britain owned a massive empire, but they were broke from the war, so they started taxing the colonies heavily. The colonists' response? No taxation without representation. That disagreement exploded into the American Revolution. July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence. But it took 7 more brutal years of fighting before Britain finally surrendered in 1883. The new country almost collapsed immediately. The first government, the Articles of Confederation, was so weak that states acted like 13 separate countries. Inflation was insane, trade was a mess, and George Washington himself worried the nation would fail. So in 1787, the Founding Fathers secretly wrote an entirely new constitution in Philadelphia. It created a strong federal government that actually worked. In 1789, George Washington became the first president of the United States, of just 13 tiny states along the East Coast. Then came the biggest real estate deal in history. Napoleon had just taken power in France and wanted Louisiana back, but he was about to invade Britain and needed cash fast. The Americans only asked to buy New Orleans. Napoleon shocked everyone by offering the entire Louisiana territory for $15 million, about 3 cents per acre. Overnight, America doubled in size. Thomas Jefferson immediately sent Lewis and Clark on an epic expedition to map it. They discovered thousands of new species, met dozens of native tribes, and proved America now stretched halfway across the continent. Americans kept moving west like crazy. Average families had 7 kids. They needed land. The idea of manifest destiny, that it was America's divine right to own the whole continent, became unstoppable. In 1836, American settlers in Texas rebelled against Mexico, fought at the Alamo, and created the independent Republic of Texas. 9 years later, the U.S. finally annexed it. That sparked the Mexican-American War. America won and took California, New Mexico, Arizona, and more for just $15 million. In 1853, the Gadsden Purchase added the last strip of southern Arizona for $10 million, basically to build a railroad. Britain gave up the Oregon Territory peacefully. In just 50 years, by luck, war, and brilliant deals, America stretched from sea to shining sea. But the biggest test was still coming from inside: slavery. The North hated it. The South's entire economy depended on it. When Abraham Lincoln, who everyone knew was against slavery's expansion, won in 1960, 11 Southern states seceded and formed the Confederacy. The Civil War killed more Americans than all other U.S. wars combined, over 620,000 dead. The North won, slavery ended, the nation was reborn. Then, in 1867, Secretary of State William Seward bought Alaska from Russia for $7.2 million. Everyone called it Seward's Folly and the Polar Bear Garden. They had no idea it contained more gold, oil, and natural resources than anyone could imagine. Next came the islands. In 1898, American businessmen overthrew Hawaii's queen Liliuokalani and basically begged the U.S. to annex it. At the exact same time, the U.S. fought Spain in a quick, flashy war over Cuba. In just 4 months, America took Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines, and officially annexed Hawaii. Suddenly, the U.S. had a global empire. Theodore Roosevelt, the youngest president ever, took over after McKinley was assassinated. He built the Great White Fleet, the second largest navy on Earth, and forced Colombia to let Panama become independent so America could build the Panama Canal. Finished in 1914, it let the U.S. Navy zip between oceans in days. By the start of World War I, America wasn't just big, it was a superpower, rich, industrialized, and impossible to ignore. And that was only the beginning.